We're alive. So, the importance of meeting yourself where you're at. So, something happens for the vast majority of people when they start something new. You have the novelty, you have the excitement, you have that initial boost of getting some results. And it's very easy to start to go to the extreme. You know, you see those little results, you get all those reward chemicals hitting you, and you want more and more and more. And you feel hyper motivated and you're really ready and you're all over it. So you start to push to the extreme. But with all things that go up, inevitably they're going to come down. And the bigger the high, the lower the low. Okay. So it's about managing expectations and learning to meet yourself where you're at. And that's something that takes time. Because if you can't manage your own expectations and meet yourself where you're at, not only are you going to suffer tremendous turbulence on your journey, you're also going to find yourself getting consumed by whatever it is that you've undertaken. It's like when people start to go to the gym and they start to train, it consumes them and they start to put it at the forefront of everything that they do. So instead of spending time with their family, their friends, their loved ones, no, sorry, I've got to go to the gym. Or instead of being able to just go for a meal out, I can't because I've got to eat this, that, and the other. So there's a balance. Everything is about balance. And it's so easy to find yourself on that extreme. But the problem is, we start doing these new things to enhance our lives, to enrich our lives, to make us better, and they end up consuming us. And they actually make us worse because we become obsessive. We become almost addicted to these things. And an obsessive way of living is not useful. You miss out on things. You become thoroughly inflexible and incapable of doing anything outside of that thing that has become your central focus. So it's so important to find a level of balance, because going all in is not sustainable. You may be able to keep it going for a while, but at some point, something's got to give. Life is going to happen. And if you're at this end of the scale and you're all out in the extremes, when things do happen, inevitably you're going to shoot to the other end of the spectrum. You go from all to nothing. And that's where most people find themselves. They're all in, they're so excited, they're so motivated. They've got all the, the reward chemicals are there. They want this thing. They're willing to do the work. They're stepping up, they're getting it done. But then life happens and it goes the other end of the spectrum. They find themselves feeling very much, overwhelmed and apathetic and not wanting to do anything because they've just given way too much. What we want to be able to do is find that middle ground and then scale up or scale down depending on what's required of us on any given day. It's learning the skill of meeting yourself where you're at and doing what needs to be done on any given day based on the context of that day, because the context matters. There are days that require less and there are days that require more. And it's all about knowing what day is what and understanding the minimum effective dose for that particular context. And your context will change. You will change. Your energy levels will change. Your hormones will change. Your physiology will change. Life will change. Stuff happens and you need to be willing to adapt to that and bend and work with it rather than fight against it or break completely, because it's often inflexibility that will lead to your stop-start cycles. All in, all out, all in, all out. So we want something in the middle so we can mold what we're doing to suit where we're at. And obviously, we could mention perfectionism here, but I think that's the story for another day. That's something in itself that deserves its own 10 minutes. But the point is, today, is that we want to be the person who learns to meet themselves where they're at with honesty and truth, not stories and lies because they're justifying something, than the person who's to the two ends of the extremes. And that used to be me, the all in, all out, all in, all out. So I'm very familiar with that positioning. But I can tell you now with absolute certainty that the person who can meet themselves where they're at will get further along than the person who starts off flying and goes all in. Because the person that can meet themselves where they're at and can adapt makes those small moves every day. Some days they might take 10 steps, some days they might take one, but a step is still a step. And if you can do that, then you'll be consistent. And it's consistency that gives us long-term results and lasting change, not for taking 20 steps forwards and then 10 back, another 10 forwards, another 5 back. It's just that continual forwards, forwards, forwards. And that comes from knowing where you're at, meeting yourself where you're at, and adapting and adjusting based on what you need on any given day. So that's my TED Talk for today. Thanks for coming. But in all seriousness, consider this within the context of your own life and how you can apply that. And let me know your thoughts about it in the comments. Are you on the extremes, all in, all out? Or are you someone that has worked to find that balance and is taking those little steps every day, meeting themselves where they're at, knowing what they need? Let me know in the comments.